even learning just up through HTML2, you're going to cover a fair amount of tags. And this begins to rapidly expand once you hit HTML3 and 4, and when you get to 5 and you add in CSS and JavaScript and potentially even more PHP, it gets rather broad. There's a bunch out there. But even if you're building a more simple site, once you start having multiple pages and multiple sections, it's a good idea to sort of think about things a little bit more strategically. So I've started this site here, and it's essentially how to make your own origami hat. I have an image map here where I have like how to turn your piece of paper into a square if it isn't square already. So like if you have printer paper or something, how to fold the actual hat itself, and then a contact page with a form. Now, right now, as far as the actual layout goes, this is the only one that is in the layout that I've designed. Now, it's really simple right now, right? It's basically a header and a little copyright thing on the bottom with a couple horizontal rules. That's really basic. But once you get into like HTML3 or HTML4, when like table layouts became the thing and they were used all the time, you could have some really expansive pieces of code, and trying to make sure that you're recreating them the exact same way every time doesn't make sense. That's not logical. And even when you're doing this, like, why would I want to try to like recreate this each time? That's not logical. So I'm going to go over a few little techniques. So first off, I have everything in this origami folder. And if I minimize this, you can see it here. I have a couple pages here. I've even created some folders and put stuff in there to try to create a little bit of a better organization system. So I've got my images in here, which then has 2 subfolders. So the steps on how to make the hat and the steps on how to turn your paper into a square. I have the main pages just in the main folder itself, including the index page, which is that opening one. The default file name for your main page is index.html on majority of servers. That's basically the standard. And then this folder here, which will have all of the different steps that you saw in the images folder, but I haven't created those yet. Even these main pages here, I haven't really created them yet. Well, I've created the content, but I haven't actually wrapped the layout around them. And it's pretty normal to create the content separately than the actual page itself, because then you can drop the content in. So instead of creating like this again with that same layout and doing it manually, I can just take this page, duplicate it, and drop them in. And that's really the way to do it. So if I open this, here is my code here. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can hopefully see it a little bit better. We didn't have a center tag in HTML2. So what I did to create this sort of centered look was I actually used the pre-element and manually spaced it out. And I did that for these, as well as this bit down here, the spacing here. And I probably could have done this with a table as well, but I chose not to. I chose to use the pre-tags for that also. So instead of like recreating this on each of these other pages, I'm going to instead copy this code and put it into here. So like this contact page, I can open this up, and I left myself some little comments in here to make it easier for me to find where. So I'll copy that and switch over here, drop that in, and then copy everything below the end of content here and drop that in, and I can save it. And if we go back to here, now it has that same sort of layout. Now I can modify things a little bit, because fold your own probably doesn't make sense there. So maybe I change this to maybe send us feedback, and I can save and I can refresh. And I need to modify this a little bit because it's a little bit bigger than the previous message, so to sort of recenter it. So maybe there. That looks pretty good. So now I'll essentially do that same thing on the others. Oh, I don't like how close that bottom is to there, so I think I'll add a few line breaks in here to the contents. And refresh, and I think that looks better. I think I'll add one thing down here though. I think down here I'll add a like return to main page. That looks good to me. Now I can copy and paste those same bits to the other two. So I'll open this. and add that in, change the subheading here. Add this bit on the bottom, save it, try it out, see if I like how it looks. I think that looks pretty good, although I think I want to add a little bit more spacing on the bottom, just like I did before. There we go, that feels a little bit better to me. And let's go to the square page, open that up, and do the same thing here. Alright, so now I'm ready to go into my pages folder and do that same thing with this page here. So this page here, I have this, but I don't have the format around it, so I need to do the same thing with that. Now, something to be aware of, if I view this code, so here is the code for that right now. If I go back and I view my main page, just something to make sure that you're aware of here. So with this image here, I'm creating that with just a simple image element, right? So we have image src equals images slash map.jpg. That's telling it to look in the images folder and to find that image here. If I'm on this page here, if I tell it to look in the images folder and it's in here, there is no images folder. I don't have to then duplicate the folder. Instead, what I can do is these two little dots with the slash, they tell it to look in the folder above. So if I'm here, look in the folder above or before, and then find the folder images, which is here, and then find the folder hat, which is here, and then pull that image, show 1-0.jpg. Now when I'm working with links, I need to be careful as well, because the links follow that same sort of pattern. So if I'm on the hat page, which is right here, and for step 1, I'm telling it to look in the pages folder. Right now, this isn't going to take me to the same page. Right now, this will be a broken link because there is no pages folder in here. Now, this is supposed to be step 1 here, but I didn't actually modify this yet. I just duplicated that previous page that I had here and dropped it in without any changes yet. The only thing that I changed was this. So I have a few things to fix. So like this won't find the square page either. I need to add in the ... and the slash here, so that way it looks in the folder above for that square.html file. So I'm going to more or less do the exact same thing in this pages folder for each one of these pages. And I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing. I'll speed through it and cut some stuff around. So I'm going to go ahead and open the hat.html file that I made because I want some of these to match, like the make the hat part here, as well as that return to main page there. So I'll grab this bit here and drop it on top and grab the bottom bits. I'm going to actually include up to these line breaks because I liked that extra spacing. And there we go. Now I need to modify some things. Just like I added this onto here, I need to add those onto here as well. And that one there. Now if I save this and I open it, let's see what I think. Alright, so overall I like that, but I don't think these really make sense here. I like this main page. Instead, I think that this could be a good way to have like the previous step, next step. So I'm going to modify that, and I think that will look rather nice because it fits the similar format that we were using before. So previous step, and here would be next step. This is step 1, so there actually wouldn't be a previous step, so this would need to go back to that hat page. So this would be hat, and the next page, this is hat1.html, so logically we would say the next one is hat2.html, It's going to be in the same folder, so I can delete those. And I don't think I want one in the middle. Oh, I see what I did. I accidentally modified the wrong one, so let's delete that. And this will be, what did I say? I said hat2. Hat2.html, but in the same folder, so delete that. Save it. Let's see what we think. There we go. I like that for the most part. I want to modify this a little bit so it's not going off of the edge there. Save and refresh. There we go. That looks pretty good. Previous step, next step. And then I can just start replicating these pages. I'm not going to really worry too much about this. I can go and modify that later, but at least I can quickly change what's here and these and have a pretty good size site rather quickly. So I'm just going to drop a comment here to change this later. And now basically I'm going to duplicate this page for each one of these images. So I have 17 images, and I will duplicate that then 17 times. Instead of right-clicking each time and duplicating, I'm just going to Command-C and Command-V because that will be faster. So 1, 2, 3, so I need it to get up to like, I don't know, 15 or something. So that's 15, 16, 17. Good. Wait, it started at 2. So this is 15 with that. That makes 16, one more. Alright, and I can modify each one of these. So hat2, hat3, and so on. Because right now they're all just duplicates of each other, it doesn't really matter which one I call what, because there is no difference in the code yet. And now I'll just modify them one by one. So this is going to be 1-1. Oh, hang on a moment. Let's see. So this is, that's hat. This goes here. Okay. So I actually made a one called 0. So that means there's actually 18 files here. So I need one more. Or, to make them match the image files, I'll start with a hat0, I suppose. Which means I need to go back here and modify this as well. And I'll just open these all with TextEdit. That'll be fun. And I can modify them one by one. So this becomes 1, and this actually becomes step 2. That goes to 3. This goes back to hat0 because we're on hat1 right now. Since we're on hat1, this next one would be hat2. Okay. That also means, though, that I need to modify that hat0. So since this is hat0, that means that the next one is actually not hat2, it is hat1. There we go. And now I'll just modify these. So 11, so this becomes 11. This is going to be step 12 because we have hat0. Because this is 11, this one goes back to 10, and this goes to 12. Let's see, so this is hat10, so this becomes 10. Step 11 because we're off 1. Since we're on 10, this becomes 9. This becomes 11. And we just keep doing this. Alright, at 17 is a little special because there is no next step. So we could just say back to main, I suppose, and this can be / index.html, just like the return to main page is, and maybe we actually signify this with like final step. Alright, so that's all of them, so let's see if it worked. So you should always test stuff after you've done stuff. So if we go to hat, and we can tell it's step 1, and then let's just click through. So step 1, 2, oh, so I forgot to switch that one on step 3. So this is 0, 1, 2. So we're on hat2.html because I got my numbering a little off. There we go. So step 3. Refresh. There we go. 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, final step, perfect. And if we go backwards, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Alright, so we have an issue on this one. It's always good to check and make sure everything works, both forward and backward. There we go, 4, 3, 2, 1, back to main. And if we make sure all the images change, so each image should change. Alright, good. So now I can do the same thing with square. So that's a quick way to make sure that all of your pages look the same and to build the content pretty quickly. And now I can just go back in and change the actual instructions per individual page, which takes a little bit of time, but at least I'm not rebuilding the whole layout for each page and then having to deal with it and like possibly not looking the same because maybe I didn't do it exactly the same.